Good afternoon, sir. Can you see and hear us?
Yes, thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Dunks. Can we move on from looking at the themes that we looked at this morning to looking at a couple of particular prosecution cases that we've already dipped into this morning, that of Jerry Hosey and Seema Misra, in slightly more detail? Can we look, please, to begin with at FUJ 308 3703? Can we see this is a witness statement dated by you, dated the 3rd of June 2008? And if we scroll down a little bit, please. And a little bit further. And then go over the page. And we can see about 5 or 6 lines in, you say, I've been asked to provide details on the calls for advice and guidance at Porters Avenue, i.e. Mr. Hosey's branch. So this is a Jerry Hosey, Porters Avenue witness statement. Do you see that?
Yes.
And as we've seen, you say, I've reviewed the HSH calls during the period that they're set out. There were 33 calls from the branch to HSH, and all of the calls are of a routine nature and do not fall outside normal working parameters of the system, and in my opinion would have had no effect on any counter discrepancies. And if we just go back to page 1, please. And if we just scroll down to some of the boilerplate paragraphs. Can you see the second one? You say, I make this witness statement from facts within my own knowledge unless otherwise stated. There's then something about records. You say, 4 lines from the bottom, you have access to the records, you weren't involved in any of the technical aspects, and you say this area is not my particular area of expertise. And you make the witness statement simply to clarify the call logs for the benefit of the court. Do you see there that the boilerplate paragraph Q in the policy documents we looked at this morning, the one that says there's no reason to believe that the information contained in this statement is inaccurate because of improper use of the computer, etc., isn't present in this witness statement?
Correct.
And it's not present if we look elsewhere in the witness statement either. I think I put this morning that we see that boilerplate paragraph in all of your witness statements. And I think you agreed with me, and I was asking you where you got it from and why you included it in all witness statements. I think it's right that it's in all of the witness statements that address extraction and explanation of ARQ data, but not in witness statements that address extraction and explanation of HSH call logs. Why is that?
I don't know why that form of the witness statement didn't include that.
So why was it included in the ARQ statements, but not the HSH statements?
I don't know why the two were different. They were the statements weren't fixed, because I could add things, or post office would request things to be taken out or put in under discussion. So most of the time it would have been a compromise under discussion of what was put in and taken out. I can't recall what the process was or what discussions were or reasons why that was left out.
Okay. The first line of that paragraph, which is included, I make this witness statement from facts within my own knowledge, unless otherwise stated. What did you understand that to mean?
I think I said earlier that that's within my own knowledge. Otherwise stated, I know you said that I hadn't stated that I spoke to the SSC, but I believe that I knew those facts or the knowledge was within my arena, or no, I knew when I made the statement.
Can you not see that in order to make a witness statement that includes that line from facts within my own knowledge, there could never be a case where you would include the words unless otherwise stated?
Sorry, say again.
Yeah. In order for you to make a witness statement about something, the something has got to be within your own knowledge, otherwise you wouldn't be able to write it down, would you?
Correct.
So given that's the case, what is the purpose of that line? If everything is always going to be within your own knowledge on your account, to put it in a witness statement, what's the purpose of that line?
I don't know, to be honest with you. That's part of the standard witness statement that we said before that we're told to use.
Did you not understand it to mean that if I don't say anything, the things I'm speaking about are in fact within my own knowledge? But if I identify in the witness statement things that I've learned from somebody else, I'll say so.
No, that was...
i.e., unless otherwise stated.
Yeah, no, I don't. That was never my understanding at the time.
Did you in fact have an understanding, or did you just include this because it was another one of the boilerplate paragraphs?
No, sorry, no, I had an understanding. I believed it was within my knowledge base at the time of writing the statement.
Okay, if that's the case, when could you ever otherwise state?
I don't know.
On your explanation, that sentence makes no sense, does it? If everything is within your own knowledge because you've been told about it, you could never state otherwise.
Yeah, if you read it that way, yes, but these are statements which were written and agreed to be used.
Can we go back to page 2, please? And look at the second paragraph down. I've reviewed the HSH calls. There are 33. All of the calls are of a routine nature and do not fall outside the normal working parameters of the system, and in my opinion would have had no effect on any counter discrepancies. If you had no technical expertise in Horizon, what qualified you to make that statement?
I'm being asked my opinion, and based on the knowledge that I had at the time, that I'm making that statement based on my opinion at the time, and that's what it says.
Can we move on, please, to FUJ 308 3704? This appears to be substantially the same statement dated 2 days later, the 5th of June 2008. And if we go to the second page and look at the second paragraph, that appears to be exactly the same, except that in the previous edition, the 3rd of June, the last sentence of the second paragraph said would have had no effect, E-F-F-E-C-T. and now that's been changed to affect, AFF, ECT. Can you see that?
Yes.
And so the overall opinion is still included in this version, correct?
Correct.
Can we look at the substantive comments that you make about the calls and look at page 3, please? And look at call number 3. Thursday, the 10th of November 2005, a call ending in 152. New call taken, postmaster's not in the right cash account period, and has not rolled over this morning. Resolution over the page. Referred to MBSC. Call closed. And so there was a report that the sub-postmaster had a problem with his cash account, yes?
Yes.
And that's passed to the MBSC.
Yes.
And you said that what is reported there would have had no effect on any counter discrepancies. This was the system operating as intended and does not fall outside the normal working parameters of the system. How were you able to say that?
Because, I mean, I'm aware, I was under the opinion that that if a call was passed to the MBSC for a business issue or a user guide or a user error, that it was resolved to a satisfactory resolution, and
Satisfactory to who?
to all parties.
So the postmasters were always happy, weren't they, in your opinion, when things got referred to the MBSC?
I have to believe that, yes.
Where did you get that information from? The postmasters were always happy when they got referred to the MBSC?
Well, we never saw the call come back, so I have to make an assumption that the calls were resolved.
And is that the foundation on which you built your evidence to a criminal court assumption?
That the calls had been resolved, yes.
You didn't know one way or the other, did you?
But the MBC was a help desk to deal with those issues, yes.
But I think you told us in the morning session that you had no access to MBSC records and didn't know what happened once a case had been referred to the MBSC.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So why did you write a witness statement saying, including reference to this call, and there are lots and lots of these, let me tell you, that are referred to the MBSC, that this was of a routine nature. It doesn't fall outside the normal parameters of the system and wouldn't have had an effect on any counter discrepancies. How can you say that?
Because if it's passed to the MBSC, it was a business issue.
Firstly, do you agree that that involves a significant assumption that the person in the HSH has rightly categorised it as a business issue?
The first port of call, yes.
So it involves an assumption by you that the HSH person has got it right.
Correct.
Even if the postmaster was saying it's a system issue, you took from the fact that it was in fact passed to the MBSC that it was a business or user issue.
Yes, because if it was then thought to be or needed further investigation to see if it was a technical issue or software issue, that call would have been passed back to Verizon to investigate it.
Are you therefore making the second assumption that because the call was not passed back to HSH by MBSC, that it must have been a business or user issue?
Yes.
Can we look, please, at call number 8 on page 5? I think if we scroll down, 5th of January, ending in 008. New call, critical event, an unexpected error occurred whilst attempting to insert a message. Timeout occurred waiting for lock. Outcome, an automatic error was picked up by the SMC, a call was logged. The SMC referred to known error log, and it's the J. Simpkins 38Q1. The KEL recommends a remote counter reboot, which fixed the problem, and no further events were seen. And if we carry on and look at 9, and then over the page to 10, please. And then down to number 10. And then quickly read 11, screen freeze. Postmaster contacted the help desk. The screen had frozen, advised to reboot, and then continue to operate as normal. 12. Over the page, please. 13, barcode reader not working. 14, barcode reader not working. 15, keyboard not accepting swipe cards. 16, pin pad not working over the page. 17, flooding and rewiring needed. 18, more flooding. 19, no online services. And then 20, please, if we come to 20. Critical NT error occurred. Remote procedure call failed. An automatic error event was picked up by the SMC. A call was logged. The SMC referred to MWrite 45K KEL. The KEL recommends a remote counter reboot, which fixed the problem and no further events were seen. This was due to the KMRX service failing to respond. And if we go forward, please, to page 13. And scroll down. You say in relation to those two that I've highlighted, the calls ending in 970 and 008, the term critical is the comparative level of attention required, etc. Reading on, these critical events occurred outside post office opening times, and a standard action of a reboot was undertaken and repaired the problem and confirmed the stability of the system. This isn't my particular area of expertise. I have a general knowledge of the procedures and have made comments to aid the court. How would a reboot confirm the stability of the system?
Well, it confirmed that the counters were back working again.
Did the calls record how long the call handler waited to review whether there were any problems, i.e. whether further issues were seen?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
Do the calls records record whether there was any later impact on balancing of the NT events which occurred? Irrespective of the system being back up and running and stable, whether it had an impact on balancing. Do the call records record that?
Well, it doesn't. No, it doesn't state that. No.
And so you wouldn't know one way or the other?
Well, if there were no calls or raised about that issue, I don't know how long they looked at the events.
So you're saying that because the sub-postmaster didn't call back in and say, I've got a an existing or continuing balancing problem, you assumed that there had been a solution that had been effective.
Well, yes. I mean, the fault had been fixed, and at that time, and so yes, I do.
Did you know what the MBSC habitually advised sub-postmasters as to their responsibility for settling discrepancies, irrespective of the cause of them?
I had no knowledge of that, no.
When you compiled summaries like this, would you habitually interrogate the KELs?
Yes, I would have looked at KELs. I would have looked at anything available.
And why would you look for the KELs?
Because it's mentioned in the call logs, within the details of the call.
Do you ever set out what the KEL says in your witness statements concerning HSH?
No. I don't believe I did, no.
Did you ever find anything relevant in the KELs then?
I can't remember what...
If you had found something relevant in a KEL, would you have included it in the witness statement?
I don't know. I was trying to give an overview, as my statement says, an overview of the call, and what it was opened, what was happened, and what the outcome was.
Did you have first-hand technical knowledge that would enable you to dissect or to understand the impact of any particular critical error or the implications of a reboot?
As I said, no, but by the time I'd done my work and written the witness statement, I believe I understood, had a better picture and understood that.
Did you ask anyone else within Fujitsu about the KELs referred to in these call logs?
If I didn't understand them, yes, I would have done. I've spoken to whoever, the SSC, someone within the SC, someone who had better technical knowledge than I did at the time.
And the inquiry's heard evidence, for example, about the riposte log problem and the calendar square problem, and has heard evidence about problems arising because counters were told to reboot the system or were rebooting the system in the face of errors that were in fact unresolved. Did you know about any of that?
No, I wasn't aware of, you mentioned the calendar squared. No, I wasn't aware of that particular problem.
So you weren't told by anyone in the SSC that the act of being told to reboot a system in the face of a critical NT error might itself be the cause of yet further problems?
I don't believe that was ever mentioned. Otherwise, I would have known about a bug or an issue that may have caused some of these problems. No, I don't believe I did.
So we've seen that the call log mentioned the J. Simpkins 338Q KEL, yes? We saw that earlier.
Yes.
And you said that you would have gone off and looked at that.
I believe I would have done, yes.
Can we look, please, at the J. Simpkins KEL, FUJ 308 3720? It's quite a short KEL, restricted to a page. The problem, events started on the 1st of May after the counter was rebooted. The counter produced one of these messages every 10 seconds throughout the night until ClearDesk restarted riposte. This cleared the lock and the system has been fine since. We're seeing a few of these each week on Wednesdays during balancing. This can lead to problems if the postmaster is balancing on the counter generating the events, as it may not have a full view of the transactions done on other counters. This event can also give rise to transfer problems, where the eventing node was not replicated and so allowed Clark to transfer of a transaction which had already been TI'd on another node for the second time. The problem is still occurring every week, in one case on the same site on 2 consecutive weeks, sent to development, and then solution. This problem seems to be cleared by either rebooting the affected counter or clear desk running in the morning if the event is seen at a multi-counter office during the working hours of the post office or up to 6 p.m. on a weekday, in case they're balancing out of hours. Ring the office and get them to reboot the eventing counter. If they're in the process of balancing, it's strongly advised they reboot before continuing balancing, as they're at risk of producing an incorrect balance. Warn the postmaster if transactions appear to be missing. They should not be re-entered. They will become visible after the counter has been rebooted. If a reboot clear desk does not resolve the problem, send the call over for further investigation. SSC can rebuild the message store on the affected counter. If the message was seen on a correspondence server and the source of the message is riposte, then raise a peak call and route it to SSC to stop and restart the riposte under operational change procedure. If the errors are seen on more than one correspondence server at the same time, then further investigations should be carried out. There's nothing in your witness statement, in particular your summary of the call logs, that acknowledges that an imbalance could result from this event, is there?
No, there isn't, no.
Or that this is something that had been happening for years, since at least May 2002, is there?
But it's seen as I see that as part of the routine handling of calls, and it's a known error that's being and has got a resolution to it, and how to deal with that type of call.
How could you tell which of the multiple different resolutions in the solution applied in this case?
On this one, if the event is seen as multi-candidate during working hours, I don't believe this one was during working hours the call was raised. So that would have been my first port of call.
I'm thinking, for example, if Reboot does not resolve the problem, send the call over for further information. SSC can rebuild the message store.
Yep.
If the message was seen on a correspondence server, then raise a peak call, route it to SSC. If the errors are seen on more than one correspondence server. What you don't seem to have done, is this right, Mr. Dunks, is looked at the possible different manifestations of this problem and seen which applied in this branch on this occasion.
I can't remember how I can. What I can see is there's a set of instructions to check and what the resolution was at each time. I can't remember what I did and how I balanced the two up. But promising, good morning, if the event is seen during working hours. So I believe this one wasn't during working hours.
It was at 01:15, I think.
In the morning,
In the
yes.
morning, yeah.
Yes, it's an automated event being picked up by the SMC.
That's the first part of the solution. I'm looking at the later parts of the solution.
Yeah. But there's a resolution for each step. I can't remember how far it got or what those steps were, and how I balanced that up to come to my my solution. But
putting it frankly, Mr. Dunks, did you carry out an investigation, come to a resolution, balance things up, or did you cut and paste extracts from call logs and add a generalised opinion in each and every one of these Horizon Help Desk witness statements?
No, not at all. That wasn't my way of working.
You carried out proper investigations in every case to see whether there was any possibility of an effect on balancing for all of the multiple calls in question, did you?
And to give my opinion, I had to do that to satisfy myself that I was happy to put that statement down in a witness statement.
That's
yes.
a lot of work in each case, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes.
Hours and hours.
It could be, yes.
Can we look, please, at FUJ 308-3702? You remember this email, 3rd of June, 2008. Can you see that?
Yes.
The bottom email, in fact, 9:29, in which Lisa Allen asks you to provide another statement, including the outcome of faults reported, and that it would have had no effect on counter discrepancy. Can you see that?
Yes.
So she's asking you to provide a new statement with a phrase, "This had no effect on counter discrepancy" added. Yes?
Yes.
And can you see that you appear to have replied, the date's been Americanized, on the 3rd of June at 10:23?
Yes.
Can you see that?
Yes.
Can we look at an early draft of your witness statement, please? FUJ 308-3683. And put alongside it the June 2008 one, FUJ 308-3703. Thank you. So witness statement on the right in Mr. Hosey's case, 24th of July 2007, which I believe is the witness statement that Lisa Allen was referring to, and then the revised witness statement of the 3rd of June, the date of the email on the left-hand side. And can we go to page 2 on each statement, please? And look at the second paragraph on each statement. Thank you. You see on the right-hand side, the July 07 witness statement is 3 lines long. I've reviewed the calls. They are all of a routine nature and do not fall outside the normal working parameters of the system. And then the 3rd of June witness statement on the left-hand side adds, and in my opinion, would have had no effect on any counter discrepancies. Can you see that's been added?
Yes.
So in short, Miss Allen has asked you to provide a new witness statement that adds in a line that, in your opinion, it would have had no effect on any counter discrepancy. And within an hour, you do so. Correct?
On that email, yes, but I think the email states as discussed. So you're trying to say that there wasn't a lot of time in between the two. I think a lot of the time, any changes that needed or were requested would have been via an email, or had to have an email as a form of audit trail. So we'd have discussed this already, so I'd probably done that work previously on that.
You replied within an hour with a revised statement, adding the words, in my opinion, the calls would have had no effect on any counter discrepancies, or the matters mentioned in the calls would have had no effect on any counter discrepancies. Was that an opinion you formed quickly and with ease?
It wouldn't have been quickly, no. That's something that would have been discussed previously, and it says discussed in the email. It's something we would have spoken about, and I don't know when that discussion took place. So I'd already done the work, and she was just confirming what she'd requested.
You remember that, do you?
No, I don't remember the jumping around or how the sequences worked, but any changes would have been discussed and agreed before they were put in.
What additional work would you have had to carry out in relation to the 33 calls logged from Porters Avenue to form the opinion that none of them would have had any effect on counter discrepancies?
I can't remember the work I put in. I mean, looking at that, I see that as a further tool to describe that the system was, well, the counters and everything that I was working as expected, and it's a further explanation to that.
Well, it's an additional point, isn't it? It's rather more than saying that the calls themselves are of a routine nature. I mean, something can be very serious.
Sorry?
Something can be very serious but be of a routine nature because it happens frequently, can't it?
Sorry, say that again.
Something can be very serious but can be of a routine nature because it happens very frequently.
Yeah, I think so, yes.
And you say that they do not fall outside the normal working parameters of the system. That itself doesn't say, does it, that whether the subject matter of the calls caused counter discrepancies, does it?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the
So
question?
saying that the subject matter of these 33 calls does not fall outside the normal working parameters of the system, does not say one way or the other whether the subject matter of the calls had any effect on counter discrepancies.
That would have been my opinion at the time, if asked. It's trying to describe that the system was working as expected.
But what you've added is an opinion that the subject matter of the calls would in fact have had no effect on counter discrepancies. So it's a material addition, isn't it?
Yes.
Can we go back to the email, FUJ 308 3702? You're referring in the bottom message to the as discussed.
Yes.
So are you telling us that the subject matter of the entirety of that bottom email had been discussed? You have carried out the work before the email of the 3rd of June had been received, and that's why you were able to turn it round so quickly on that Tuesday morning?
I would like to think so, yes.
Can we move forwards, please, to FUJ 3729? We're now in 2010, 6th of May 2010, still concerning Porters Avenue. And at the bottom email, so the top email, the date has again been Americanized, I think, from 6th of May. From the printed as the 5th of June, in fact, the 6th of May. If we look at the bottom email first, 6th of May, please provide me with a further statement exhibiting the 33 calls log. Can you send a copy of the exhibit with a label? Apologies for the short notice. There's a mention at court tomorrow. Can you see that?
Yes.
And then at the top of the page, again, you reply quite quickly, 11:07 through to 12:41. Let me know if this is okay. Can you see that?
Yeah.
When you produced that statement, did you go back and look at the Kells?
And I think that is a request. As discussed, can you please provide me with a further statement exhibiting the 33 calls? I think that was to supply the full call details.
Okay, so this is a bit like in Misra, where you started off with a summary, and then were asked to produce a witness statement simply exhibiting the calls, the call logs.
It appears to be that type of thing, yes.
So you wouldn't have to conduct any extra analysis, is that right, in order simply to exhibit?
If I'm just supplying the call data, no.
Thank you. Can we move on, please, to look at Seema Misra's case? That can come down. Thank you. You made, I think, 3 witness statements in the case of Seema Misra. Can we look at one of them, please? The one dated the 29th of January 2010, poll 30584448. Poll 30584448. It's obviously a rogue reference. It's attaching a witness statement dated by email, dated the 29th of January 2010, from Mr. Longman to Phil Taylor in the post office and 2 lawyers, 1 solicitor, 1 counsel, attaching your witness statement, which deals with all of the helpline calls regarding the Horizon system, and asking for it to be served on the defence. Can we look what happened after that, please? FUJ 0015 2990. This is an email exchange between Anne Chambers and Gareth Jenkins. And just staying on the top part of it first, we can see that this email exchange is sent to you by Penny Thomas. Okay?
Yes.
If we scroll down, please, to page 2. And scroll on a little further. Thank you. This is about, so this is 25th of January, after you'd signed off your first witness statement, the 25th of February, after you'd signed off your first witness statement at the end of January. It's about witness statement support for West Byfleet. And Ms. Chambers says to Mr. Jenkins, just sending to you initially, my involvement has always been unofficial, and on the basis that I had time to do it. If I need to do more detailed analysis on this, I'm not sure what I'd be able to find without knowing what their specific problem was. It'll have to be agreed officially with my manager. I don't think I can keep volunteering. There are several entries on the 1 Sysman 2 tab which require some further investigation. I've added some highlighting. Counter 1, the dates in May 06 and February 08. I don't know whether the counter was replaced or whether the message store was deleted. Power help and TFS calls may illuminate this. I don't know if the counter was used whilst these errors were occurring. It may have been. If they've complaints specific to these items, perhaps they should be checked out. There are some isolated timeouts waiting for lock messages. In general, these appear to be associated with checksums being written. To be on the safe side, it could be checked whether anyone was logged on certain dates and times by reference to those 2 counters. It's notable that the branch does not have the repeated lock messages, which are a feature of the calendar square problem over the page. As far as I know, that error message hasn't been investigated. but nobody's complained of a problem linked to it. I'll try to check it out. So if you then scroll up, please. And keep going. Gareth Jenkins says, Anne has looked at the events log. She's identified a number of things below to check out. Are you able to check out the specific time she's indicated, see if anyone was logged on? And secondly, against Andy Dunk's call logs, then up the page. Penny says to you, I requested the events to be checked to support your witness statement. I've had a chat with Gareth this morning. No transaction data has been requested. It's pointless going further. However, you might like to check Anne's comments against the calls in your witness statement. Did you do so?
I'd like to think I did. I wouldn't have just ignored that email.
You tell us in your witness statement, I'm not going to turn it up, paragraph 204 on page 61, I've no recollection of this email or what precisely I did in relation to it. Does that remain the case? You don't know whether you did anything as a result of...
No, I can't remember what I did.
Can you remember whether you did anything?
Again, it's that long ago, I can't remember what I did. I'd like to think I didn't ignore that, so I would have done something, but I can't remember.
You say in your witness statement, I would have satisfied myself at the time that the system events did not affect the integrity of data. What did you do to satisfy yourself that the system events did not affect the integrity of data?
Just, again, based around what I learned from my investigations.
A bit more specific than that, Mr. Dunk.
I don't know. I can't remember what I did.
What could you have done in the light of the 3 suggestions that Anne Chambers was making to satisfy yourself that the system events did not affect the integrity of the data?
Well, the system events are the ones that are picked up by the SMC. So I would have looked at those calls. I'd like to think I did.
Did you understand what she was referring to, or what she would have been looking for in Power Help?
Sorry, where about? No, I can't remember what, as I said, I can't remember the details of this specific.
Did you have access to Power Help?
Yes, I did.
Do you understand what she would have been looking for in order to look in TFS call records?
Well, Power Help and TFS were different versions of the help desk calls.
You don't record in your witness statements that followed this that you did anything in particular in your subsequent witness statements in the Seema Misra case?
No, because I didn't know.
And why not?
Well, what investigations that took place, I didn't, because I was looking at the calls as a whole.
But here you had somebody from SSC, who you've told us earlier that you relied on as a technical expert, suggesting that 3 things need to be done.
Yep.
So this isn't one of those conversations over the phone or where you went up to the 6th floor and we've got no record of it. This is one of those occasions where we have got a record of what the person in the SSC says needs to be done. And I'm asking, in your following witness statements, there is no record of you doing anything in response to Anne Chambers' suggestions. Why is that?
Well, I wouldn't have thought that it would have been, after I'd looked at these, if my opinion hadn't changed after looking at these, there wouldn't been any need to add that statement, as you're saying.
And is that the basis on which you operated consistently when working for Fujitsu? That if you investigate something, but in your own mind it doesn't alter your opinion, there's no need to record that you had conducted that investigation whether in a witness statement or otherwise?
I don't think at any stage I was required or asked to put down what investigative work that I carried out. These were an overview of the calls, and then I was asked for my opinion based on that.
Can we look, please, at the call records? Poll 3061793. These are the call records that you exhibited. Can we look at page 22, please? And we should see an entry, if we scroll down, please. Thank you, and a bit further. Thank you. An entry of the 20th of February, can you see that?
Yes.
2006. Mrs. Misra, the postmaster, saying, under call problem, postmaster states that she's showing £6,000 down from balance. Yes?
Yes.
And then the call was closed within 2 minutes of it being opened. The call handler said it's an MBSC issue. Can you see that?
Yes.
So in your world, this is good evidence that this is nothing to do with the system. It's a business or user error.
At first, to be investigated, yes.
Well, where does it say it's to be investigated?
Well, it's passed the MBSC for them to look into and deal with that issue.
Is it passed to the MBSC? Or is Mrs. Misra told this is an MBSC issue?
Advised MBSC issue. Looking at that now, I don't know. I would assume it's been passed the MBSC. I advised it's an MBSC issue. It's either passed to the MBSC or advised that for the user to speak to the MBSC.
But you reading this on its face without more, you'd say this is down to the postmaster and the way she operates her branch, nothing to do with the system.
At that point in time, yes.
How can you tell that?
But there has to be...
Record?
Sorry?
How can you tell that from that record? This is down to the postmistress, and the way she operates her branch.
Well,
This doesn't indicate that there's anything wrong with the system. It was operating as intended.
It's a business or a user issue. That has to be investigated first by the MBSC, because it's it looks like it's a balancing issue for advice for them to sort out, look into, or offer advice and guidance.
Okay, over the page, please. And then scroll down to the second call, 10:45. Seema Misra again, 3 minutes later. Postmaster states that showing £6,000 down from balance. Advised N because issue. Postmaster stated she was talking to the MBSC and got cut off. And then under call closure, I advised postmaster, I would put her through. Postmaster was happy with this. And then scroll down. And over the page. 3:40 the same day, Seema Misra calling. Postmaster is stating that her system is showing different values for certain products. And then this one says postmaster transferred. Scroll down a little bit. Again, within 2 minutes. And then next call, please. Next day, postmaster states the last couple of weeks they've had problems with the Horizon kit. It's always showing they're down in money. Over the page. Call closed. Advised. She's been advised by the MBSC, advised postmaster to follow this reference. Offered, and scroll down. 23rd of February. Postmaster states she has losses every week in 2 stock units. Call closed. Advised that the MBSC take a second look as the stock units appear to be in a mess. Over the page. Keep going, please. And keep going. And keep going. Then Anne Chambers gets a hold of it. And just stop there. So a postmistress repeatedly calling in to the help desk, being directed to the MBSC. And on the basis of those call records, you say this is the system operating as intended. This is all routine. And this is down to the sub-postmistress, not the system. Correct?
If it's passed to the MBSC to be investigated, yes.
Can we look at page 26, please? And MBSC, this is the third entry, MBSC states that on the CC stock unit, postmaster has rolled over with a £1,500 loss. JSA stock unit, postmaster has rolled over with a £200 loss. MBSC states that on the 18th of February, postmaster declared her cash and she has a £900 loss up until Saturday. And then when the postmaster declared her overnight cash on Saturday at 1 p.m, went back to £200 loss. MBSC also states that her AA stock unit has a £6,000 loss. Postmaster has rolled this over as well. And then if we scroll down, please. And then scroll over that and keep going. Anne Chambers says she's checked very carefully and can see no indication that the continuing discrepancies are due to a system problem. And then over the page. And just stop there. The last 5 lines, she says this may be due this may be to do with how the discrepancies have been accounted for. I do not really understand this. I recommend that this call is passed back to MBSC Tier 2 for further investigation, since there's no evidence that the discrepancies are being caused by a system problem. If you want the above information in an email, let me know. So when you were providing a witness statement saying that all of the calls are of a routine nature and do not fall outside the normal working parameters of the system, were you relying on the accuracy and truth of what's written, for example, here?
I believe so. Well, not just the written word. I would have probably spoken to somebody about what was going on there, as I would do normally. But
who would you have spoken to?
I could quite easily have spoken to Anne herself. I don't recall.
I mean, all of this entry here, leading up to this point, if we go to your witness statement, please, at poll 00167135. Poll 00167135. This is your witness statement of the 29th of January 2010. Can we look, please, at page 8? And if we scroll down, please. And a little further. Thank you. That call that we've just looked at is number 29. You summarise that episode by saying Annette, NBSC, postmaster states she has losses every week in 2 stock units. Resolution, 3rd of March, call closed. Postmaster was getting discrepancies. SSC have investigated and advised that the NBSC take a second look at the as the office stock units appear to be in a mess. Outcome, SSC advice that call be passed back to NBSC for further investigation. So that entire call you've summarised in this way. How were you able to say that this call was of a routine nature and the contents of the call would not affect the working order of the counter?
Through my investigation, I mean, the call, I would have said routine nature. There were calls where postmasters had a discrepancy of some sort, and they were investigated routinely, as they would be, and resolved. So these are routine calls.
Was everything that happened in the decades of you working for Fujitsu routine? Nothing ever happened out of the routine?
I don't know, but I'm basing this witness statement on my knowledge at the time that I'd seen numbers of these type of calls and they're dealt with routinely.
But what was the outcome? What happened? What was the outcome?
The NBSC investigated, so I have to believe that the NBSC had resolved the issue.
How did you believe that the NBSC had resolved the issue?
Because the call didn't come back to Fujitsu for further investigation.
What about if the NBSC were telling the postmasters, we've taken it as far as we can go, it's now your job to pay up. You owe that £6,000. It says so in your contract.
I know nothing about that.
No. Thank you very much, Mr. Dunks. You've been very helpful indeed. Those are the only questions that I ask. There are some questions from call participants. I wonder whether we might have a 10-minute break so that they can organise themselves.
Yeah, by all means. So what time shall we resume?
25 past, I think, sir.
Okay, fine.
Can hear us?
Yes, I can, thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. There are 2 sets of questions from call participants, about 15 to 20 minutes from Miss Page and about 5 minutes or so from Mr. Steen, in that order.
Fine.
Mr. Dunks, I asked questions on behalf of some of the sub-postmasters in this inquiry, including both Mr. Castleton and Mrs. Misra. Mr. Dunks, you were very loyal to Fujitsu, weren't you?
Loyal?
You'd been with the businessman and boy, yes?
And for almost 30 years now, yes.
And you would do or say pretty much anything to protect the Fujitsu name, is that right?
No, that's not true.
Let's have a look at FUJ 2015-4750. This is an email chain that the inquiry has seen before between you and your boss, Peter Sewell. And it was before you were due to give evidence against Lee Castleton. If we scroll down to Mr. Sewell's email, thank you. See you in court then. Fetter Lane is where they used to hang people out to dry. I don't suppose that type of thing happens anymore, though. That Castleton is a nasty chap and will be out to rubbish the FJ name. It's up to you to maintain absolute strength and integrity, no matter what the prosecution throw at you. We will all be behind you, hoping you come through unscathed. Bless you. You were going to be loyal to Fujitsu, weren't you, no matter what?
That's not what that says, no.
That's the culture, that's the mindset, isn't it, Mr. Dunks?
No, I read that as he's trying to give me support and confidence to go in, because I think that was the first time I was being called to court as a witness.
The way that he chose to give you confidence was by describing the person whose trial it was as a nasty chap. Do you see that?
I do, yes.
And he was going to be out to rubbish the Fujitsu name. And it was up to you to stop that, wasn't it, Mr. Dunks?
No, it was up to me to be strong and deal with that with integrity.
Let's look at your reply. If we go up, please. Thank you for those very kind and encouraging words. I had to pause halfway through reading it to wipe away a small tear. Bless you all, Andy. What did that mean, Mr. Dunks?
I got on very well with Pete at the time, Mr. Sewell. He was trying to put me at ease, so I'm just saying thank you for that. I believe in their support.
Are you honestly trying to suggest that that was a genuine reply rather than an obviously sarcastic response?
Sorry, say that again.
Well, are you suggesting that you really did have to pause halfway through reading that email to wipe away a small tear? Is that
No.
what you're saying, Mr. Dunks?
No.
No. It was sarcasm, wasn't it, Mr. Dunks?
It was between myself and Pete. Say sarcasm, possibly, but that was... Yeah, there's no real bad intention about that. It was just the type of relationship Pete and I had at the time.
The sort of relationship where you and your manager in litigation support joke about the fact that you're going to give evidence against a man whose future was on the line.
No, we weren't joking. No. I don't see that as that. And I don't see that we were joking about what we were doing. And as you said, a person's reputation and that were online. It's not something to joke about. I don't read it as that. I can't remember how...
Banter, isn't it, Mr. Dunks?
It could have been.
Where
Yes.
they used to hang people out to dry. Oh, I don't suppose they do that sort of thing anymore. Oh, I had to wipe away a small tear. Banter, wasn't it?
Yeah, it possibly was, yes. It was trying to put me at ease because I knew what it was the first time.
And this was copied in to Penny Thomas and Nena Lowther.
Yes.
This was a team email. Is that fair?
Yes.
This was the culture you all worked in, wasn't it? Deeply, deeply partisan. You were all there to make sure that the nasty postmasters did not rubbish the Fujitsu name. That's what your team was doing, wasn't it?
No.
As led by the man you got along with very well, Mr. Sewell.
No, that wasn't the culture at all. I don't know why he used those words down the bottom. I've got no idea. But it was more, as I said, trying to put me at ease, to try and relax and tell me that they got my support and my backing.
Thank you. Let's turn to Mrs. Misra and an email that you were looking at with Mr. Beer earlier on, but which I'd like to ask some different questions on. FUJ 00152990, please. And this is the set of emails which were forwarded to you. They were originally between Anne Chambers and Gareth Jenkins. And they were forwarded to you, as we can see at the top there, by Penny Thomas. Now, if we just look at this top right-hand corner of the page, we see page 1 of 4. And as we scroll down, before we scroll down, we can see there that it's got Penny Thomas above the fact that it's from her. Do you see? You see that there we are, highlighted. It's got that line and Penny Thomas above it, and then page 1 of 4. As we look through the email, so if we scroll down to the top of page 2, we see page 2 of 4, and then it continues page 3 of 4 and page 4 of 4. Now, would you agree that that suggests that Penny Thomas printed off that email chain? That's often the format we see, isn't it, when people print off an email and it comes out with their name at the top?
To be honest with you, I don't know. If that's the format, I'll take your word for it. I'm not 100% sure on that.
All right. Well, the final page that is part of this document is a short statement from you. And if we can go to that, please, page 5. So there we had page 4 of 4. That's the email chain. And then we have this witness statement from you. And it's really just that. It's that one-liner. And it's dated and apparently signed. The signature has got the marker over it saying GRO, which means that it has been signed, but it doesn't show. And the statement really simply says, further to my statement dated the 29th of January 2010, I can confirm that all the calls mentioned from West Byfleet Post Office to the Horizon System Help Desk are of a routine nature. And that's all there is to it. We can scroll down if you'd like to be sure of that. So it looks rather like, doesn't it, that Miss Thomas has printed out the email chain alongside your witness statement claiming that all the calls were of a routine nature. Do you see that? Do you accept that?
Yeah, it hasn't got a name on the top of this one, so is that part of the printed?
No, it seems to be separate because the printed email seems to be pages 1 to 4 of this whole 5-page bundle of documents. So it looks as if we've got a 4-page email chain printed out, and then alongside that, your 1-page witness statement. Do you see that? Does that make sense?
No, it doesn't, because if you've got pages 1 to 4, that hasn't got a number on that witness statement.
No, that's right. So what I'm suggesting is, it looks as if the 4-page email chain has been printed out and filed with the 1-page statement from you. Or rather, at least they've been put together and then scanned and provided to the inquiry in that way.
Okay, yes.
So your statement sits alongside the 4 pages of email chain.
Okay.
And on the one hand, your statement is saying that all the calls are of a routine nature, but the heart of the email chain is the Anne Chambers email, in which, by contrast, she makes it absolutely clear that the calls required some technical investigation and some cross-checking to find out what lay behind them and whether they were indeed, quotes, routine. Do you accept that?
What, can you go
we
up
can
to
go up to the, it was read out to you earlier, we can go up to the email from Anne Chambers.
Oh, yes, I remember that, yeah.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So she's basically saying that there needs to be a further investigation into these calls.
Yes.
Yeah? And that's been filed alongside your statement saying, no, they're all routine. Yeah? And you're nodding, so I'm taking that as a yes for the transcript.
Yeah.
Now, would you accept that when you were sent this email chain, it put a burden on you to check your witness statements and make sure that what you'd said in them was correct and not misleading?
Well, that would have been my process throughout.
And so when you received an email from Anne Chambers saying there's a whole number of technical things that need checking, you should have done that, shouldn't you, given that you had already signed a witness statement that claimed that these calls were all just routine?
Well, yes, yeah, I would have done the work, yes.
So you say now, do you, that you did all the work that was set out in Anne Chambers' witness email here?
I hope to think I did. I don't remember what that involved and what I did specifically.
Let's look at what she says needs to be done. She says, first of all, that the power held stroke TFS calls may illuminate this. That's the middle of the page there. And then she says, I don't know if the counter was used while these errors were occurring. It may have been. If they have any complaints specific to these times, perhaps they should be checked out. Are you saying that you did that?
I'd like to think I did, yes.
At this time, there was no ARQ data. How would you have done it?
Well, what do you mean at this time? No, this time I hadn't supplied the data. I had the data to carry out and to be able to make that statement. So I had the data.
You had the call records, but you didn't have the ARQ data. It hadn't yet been produced. That's actually in the first email in this chain. We can go up to it if you like.
But this is referring to the help desk.
Yes, but how would you have known whether counters were being used while these errors were occurring without the ARQ data?
I don't know how I'd come to that conclusion, but it's asking me to have a look, and I'd like to think that I did.
And what I'm saying to you, Mr. Dunks, is that you didn't yet have the information you needed to have a look. And yet you had produced a witness statement in which you said that all the calls were routine. And you did nothing to change that, did you?
Because of what I'd done to investigate it. There wouldn't have been anything... If I believed that there was no more information that's needed, and my witness statement was accurate to what I believed at the time, there wouldn't have been needed any further changes.
Let's go down to the bottom of the email. Error message. Error in node retrieval for nodes 1010. As far as I know, this hasn't been investigated. But on the other hand, no one has complained of a problem linked to it. I'll try to check it out. What did you do about that?
I can't remember what I did on that. I mean, that reads that Anne was going to try and check it out. I may have spoken to Anne, she may have spoken to me. I can't remember what took place.
Well, let's go up to the top of the email chain and remind ourselves of what took place. As requested, the events to be checked to support your witness statement. I requested the events to be checked to support your witness statement. I've had a chat with Gareth this morning, and as no transaction data has been requested, it's pointless going further with this exercise. You may like to check Anne's comments against the calls in your witness statement. So all you had, Mr. Dunks, was the call records, and you had nothing else. You could not check out what Mrs. Chambers was saying needed to be checked out, could you? And yet you had provided a witness statement which claimed that all calls were routine.
I can't remember how I came to that conclusion, but I would have been happy at the time. I don't know how I came to that conclusion. The calls may be in the information of the calls, and when the calls were logged, I can't remember what I would have done, but I would have done something.
At the very least, your statement that had already been signed required a qualification, did it not? Saying there are some further matters which need to be investigated when the ARQ data has been requested and supplied.
Clarification that I still believe that statement was true, yes.
And you did nothing? Mr. Dunks.
What do you mean? I didn't...
Well, we do not see, do we, a further witness statement in which you qualify or say anything at all about the statement that we've just had a look at, in which you claimed that all the calls were routine.
If the statement didn't need updating, because that statement was, in my opinion, still true, there was no update needed.
How was it still true, Mr. Dunks, when Mrs. Chambers had just set out all the ways in which the calls needed to be investigated to find out whether they were routine?
Yeah.
How could it still be true when those investigations had not been carried out and could not be carried out?
Well, I'm sorry, but I would have done checks. I don't know how or what the process I did.
No.
So
All right.
if nothing needed changing, and that didn't affect my opinion on the calls, I wasn't going to change the statement.
No, indeed. You told us that there was no relationship between the fact that the SSC were protected from giving evidence by Mick Peach and the fact that you routinely provided witness statements based on what they told you without revealing that they had told you what you were saying. You said there was no relationship between those two things earlier on, didn't you?
I did. Yeah. I don't
On the
believe
one
that.
hand, Mick Peach is over here protecting his team, saying they're not to give any witness statements. And on the other hand, there's you providing witness statements which say things that the SSC have told you without revealing that the SSC have told you that. Remember, you told us there was no relationship between those two things.
Yes.
We can see the relationship in action here, can't we, Mr. Dunks? Let's go back to Mrs. Chambers' email. And that first paragraph. Gareth, sending just to you initially. I know you have even more on your plate than I do, but my involvement has always been unofficial and on the basis that I had time to do it. And then at the end, without knowing what their specific, at the very end, she says, if I am to do anything, it will have to be officially agreed with my manager. You can instigate that if you like, but I don't think I can keep volunteering. That was apparently accepted by you and your team member, Penny Thomas. You didn't press her, did you, to give an official witness statement? You didn't press her. You allowed her to just keep volunteering in this unofficial way, didn't you?
Well, volunteering, yes, the same as I would speak to anybody within the SSC or anybody who's supplying me with information for me to do my role.
In effect, you were covering for Mrs. Chambers, weren't you?
Sorry, no. Covering for her? Covering for what?
Covering for the fact that she did not want to give evidence. She did not want to stand up and defend Horizon in court, but you were perfectly happy to.
I wouldn't say that was covering. I was happy with the role that I was tasked to and asked to do.
And neither you nor Miss Thomas thought to say to him, it's Mr. Peach, that is, actually, you know what, Mrs. Chambers would be better placed to look into these technical matters that she says need to be investigated. Mrs. Chambers ought to look into them and she ought to provide a witness statement. You didn't say that, did you?
No, I didn't, no.
You were covering for SSC because they were not prepared to stand up and defend Horizon in court, weren't you?
No, that's not how it worked. I'm sorry, it wasn't.
Just some further questions on a different topic, Mr. Dunks. You remember in the Bates litigation, when the boilerplate wording in your statement was put to you, you originally claimed that you were not following the Fujitsu, quotes, party line. Do you remember that,
Yes,
that
I do.
questioning? Later, you did admit, of course, that there was a template that you all used with the boilerplates in it. And that was something that you only admitted when the statement from Mr. Jenkins, which was identical to yours, was put to you. Yes? Do you remember that?
What's the word? Did you say boilerplate? Sorry.
Yes, that's a word that's often used when speaking of legal wording that's been put in to cover off all eventualities. Standard wording, if you like.
Oh, is it? I've never heard it before.
Well, it was put to you in the Bates litigation, but never mind, we don't need to worry about that. You finally admitted that there was a Fujitsu party line, didn't you?
I finally admit, yes, I've gone over that, and I misinterpreted what he meant by a party line. I had an understanding what I thought he meant by a party line.
Yes. Well, now, of course, you are clinging to the fact that there was a party line, because what you're really saying is it's not my fault that the party line was misleading. It's not my fault I took the party line. I was just following orders. That's what I was told to put in witness statements, and that's what I did, yes?
That's my understanding when I first answered that question, when I said no, because that wasn't the case.
I see. So you're now saying, are you, that your process-driven witness statements, which were misleading, were entirely your own work?
No, what I was saying was, when he first asked me the question, I was following a party line, I understood that to be that what you just said, that we were all told to stick by a story and follow the party line and don't waver from it, and we've been told what to say. That's what I, in my understanding at the time, was answering, and the answer was no. Later on in the questioning, he mentioned or stated that following the party line was the use of templates. So I agreed, well, if that was his understanding, yes, I agree with him. We did use templates. So I wasn't trying to cover or hide anything. I just was answering the question how I understood it.
Well, you haven't been prepared to reveal who drafted those templates, who was in charge of what was used from those templates, how it came about that you used this bit or that bit, and so did Mr. Jenkins.
Sorry, I don't understand that.
Well, you haven't revealed anything to do with how those templates were actually used and who was in charge of them, have you?
How they were used? They were used by, what do you mean how they were used? They were used by us.
Who drafted them?
Someone within Fujitsu.
Someone. Well, let's look at some of the standard paragraphs and just identify this. When Mr. Jenkins was recently asked about the standard paragraphs from the templates, and Mr. Beer asked him about this paragraph, which you will no doubt recognise. There is no reason to believe that the information in this statement is inaccurate because of the improper use of the computer. To the best of my knowledge and belief at all material times, the computer was operating properly, or if not, any respect in which it was not operating properly or was out of operation was not such as to affect the information held on it. Now, you know that wording, don't you? You use it yourself or have used it many times.
Yes.
But you've also used that exact same wording, replacing the words the computer with the system. That also is something you have said in many, many witness statements.
Okay.
What was the difference between the computer and the system?
I'm not sure what the difference was. It's still trying to convey the same opinion.
What is that opinion then, Mr. Dunks?
What the statement says. I don't remember why those two words were changed.
Who instigated that change?
Pardon?
Who instigated that change?
I have no recollection of who instigated that change. I can't remember.
But did you?
I'm so sorry.
I said, did you, Mr. Dunks? In other words, did you quite deliberately, on some occasions, use the word the computer, and on other words, and on other times, the system? Or was there a different template which you use from time to time?
No, I don't believe there was a different template. I don't remember why.
If there wasn't a different template, you personally must have decided to substitute the system for the computer on occasions. So I think what Ms. Page wants to know is why you did that.
That may have been on the request of someone within the post office or one of their lawyers. I don't. Every time there was a change within a witness statement, it was spoken about and discussed and then agreed on the wording. So there were many changes. The witness statement evolved through the years and changes. How that was changed and the process and when things were changed and things taken out, I can't remember that process and who instigated what changes.
So you have no recollection of any kind as to any conversation between you and anyone which resulted in the phrase the computer being changed to the phrase the system. Is that your...
No. I mean, even now, I would regard that meaning the same, trying to convey the same thing. I don't know why those two words were changed.
So there's your answer, Ms. Page. The computer and the system are the same thing.
Well, I wonder if I might just ask a little more on that, just by putting to you what Mr. Jenkins said he thought the computer meant. He said that he thought the computer meant the computer that he was typing his witness statement on. That his desktop computer that he was typing it on was working properly. Does that make any sense to you, Mr. Dunks?
I don't know how or why, how he came to that conclusion. I don't know. No.
Do you know how or why it was that he came to have that wording at all?
In what? Sorry, in what?
How would he have come to have the template wording that your team used?
Because, well, actually, I'm not sure I ever saw any of Gareth's witness statements. I'm assuming that they would being used the same sort of templates to start off with, the witness statement templates.
Was this dealt with at a level above you, Mr. Dunks? Was someone in charge of the template and how it was used?
If someone had more authority to me and about those things, yeah, I believe so. Yes.
Who? Is your loyalty getting in the way here, Mr. Dunks?
My loyalty?
Is that why you're being so cagey about who was in charge of the standard wording in the witness statements?
No, because I don't know who wrote the witness statement. I don't know who drafted the original witness statement.
And you don't know who changed the wording from one thing to another?
Well, that would have been, I mean, someone like through discussions within the post office. I mean, I know that the wording at times of the ARQ witness statements were changed and that would have been, I would have been I would have been informed by someone like Penny, because she managed the litigation. So we were told that if there were any changes, we were then been told to use the new format.
Who chose the templates for you, Mr. Dunks?
Who chose the templates? We were told which templates to use.
By who?
Management or management. Either our line manager or the litigation support manager.
Going back to your loyalty, Mr. Dunks, was it your loyalty that led you not to reveal the existence or the content of the known error logs in your witness statements?
No, not at all. No, because every witness statement that I supplied, I was aware that if needed, and which we did on many occasions, supplied all the call data to be seen, and so they could see within, if they investigated or looked at it, anybody who looked at that would see that there were KELs, and they would have been able to request or that information as well. At no time was I hiding anything because I knew that information was available.
Did anyone ever tell you not to refer to the KELs? Did anyone ever tell you that it would be better not to make sure anyone knew what KEL stood for?
Not at all. I was never told. I honestly believe that I was never told, don't put this in, you mustn't say that. And that's going back to you, people implying that we were following a party line. I was never under pressure to put in something that I didn't want to put in.
Thank you, sir. Those are my questions.
Thank you, Ms. Page. Mr. Steen?
Mr. Dunks, I've got two areas to ask you questions about. I asked questions on behalf of a firm called Howe & Co, who've instructed me on behalf of a large number of sub-postmasters. One of our clients, with an eye for detail, wants to see if you can help regarding the development of Horizon Online and its operating system, okay? So this goes back to around, 2010. And the evidence that the inquiry has is that whilst that was under development, that the new operating system, the new Horizon Online system was using Microsoft NT4 operating system. And the reason why was that it was regarded as being too expensive to upgrade to a more current technology. So our question is this: can you help us with when Horizon Online was updated to a newer version of an operating system?
No, I can't remember the dates when we moved from one to another. No, I don't. I can't recall.
Was it ever updated?
Well, Horizon was updated to Horizon Online, yes.
Yes, but the operating system, being Microsoft NT4, did it move on from that point?
Oh, right. Do you know, I can't remember. I believe it was changed when the new counters were run out for H&GX, I think. But I can't be certain. I wasn't involved in the rollouts or updates and things like that.
All right. If you're right about it being changed around the time of the new counters, roughly when would that be? So if we refer back to the 2010 into the new Horizon Online system.
Sorry, the dates of all the updates, I don't recall, sorry.
Okay. Now, the second point is this. We know that the Post Office is hoping to move on from the Horizon system by April of 2025, and moving on from, therefore, and away from the Horizon system. We're told by press releases from the post office that the new system is going to be called New Branch IT. Now, you still work for Fujitsu. You work within the customer service post office account security team. Can you help us with how that's going? Is the suggestion to move on from Horizon system and finish, therefore, the contractual relationship with Fujitsu going to make it by April of 25?
I'm sorry, you're asking the wrong person. I have no idea of that level of information.
None at all. You've not been given any updates to say that the post office account is going to finish at any time this year, or it's coming to an end, and that there may therefore be a change in your workplace?
I don't recall that I've seen that, because all I know is sorry, the dates for the end of the contract have moved from the original date, and it's been pushed back.
It keeps on moving, and more money keeps on being paid. We're just trying to work out when the Horizon system's coming to an end.
As I said, you're asking the wrong person. I can't answer that. I've got no idea.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Dunks.
That it, Mr. Beer?
Yes, it is. Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you, Mr. Dunks, for making a second witness statement and for giving evidence during the course of the day. I'm grateful to you for doing that. So I understand, Mr. Beer, that we're going to start a little later tomorrow at 10:05 with Mr. McCall. Is that correct?
That's right, sir, to allow the fire alarm to occur in particular.
Yeah, fine. All right then, 10:05 tomorrow.
Thank you, sir.